Today on Time About the Movies, Jon Favreau returns with another big action blockbuster, this time with Daniel Craig, Harrison Ford, and Olivia Wilde among the cast, taking the graphic novel Cowboys and Aliens and bringing it to life on the big screen. Does it actually become successful? Well, we're going to find out, but I'm not making any guarantees on that. And Raja Gosnell gets a chance to destroy another classic show from our childhoods with the Smurfs, the first film based off the Smurfs that went to the big screen that wasn't an animated movie. It's another live-action CG hybrid. But yeah, you might be surprised at what I have to say about that one too. But we do have at least one really good movie this weekend with Crazy Stupid Love, the ensemble with Steve Carell, Ryan Gosling, Emma Stone, Marissa Tomei, Julianne Moore among its cast. And we have John Boyega starring alongside Nick Frost and Jodie Whittaker in Joe Cornish's Attack the Block. So, 4 movies to take a look at to wrap up July 2011. This is Time About the Movies.
I've been dropped out of the sky.
Where'd you get your bracelet?
I don't know. What the hell?
He knows where they are. You just have to remember.
You ready to get your people back? Come on!
We have one advantage. They underestimate you.
And welcome to Time About the Movies. Today we are taking a look at the 4 films that wrap up July of 2011, July 29th to be exact. And we are starting with the biggest of the new releases, and that is Cowboys and Aliens. This is based, like I said, based off of the graphic novel of the same name. It's set in the southwestern United States in a retro-futuristic version of the 1870s, following an amnesiac outlaw played by Daniel Craig, a wealthy, powerful cattleman played by Harrison Ford, and a mysterious woman who must ally to save a group of townspeople who have been abducted by aliens. And there's a lot of notable people on this film, not just director Jon Favreau, not just the cast. It includes, Daniel Craig, Harrison Ford, Olivia Wilde, Sam Rockwell, Paul Dano, Noah Ringer from The Last Airbender the year before. But this is written by Roberto Orci and Alex Kurtzman, Damon Lindelof, Mark Ferguson, Hawk Ostby. Steve O'Derrick wrote the story for this. It's produced by Brian Grazer, Ron Howard, Steven Spielberg. So yeah, there's a lot of people involved in this movie. So yeah, obviously, the film has a lot of high expectations going into it, especially with Jon Favreau coming off of the Iron Man movies. And the idea sounds really cool enough that it could stand on its own merits, but this is one of those movies that's more style over substance. Because yeah, the action sequences are pretty cool. The special effects are pretty good as well. I give the movie credit for not being one of those movies that are post-production 3D hell type of films, so I don't have to use the graphic this time around. But with all that said, though, the script overall is rough. It's a movie that the script is rough, but not only that, the tone is just way too serious. And for a movie like this, you have to have the right mindset of a pulpy. You have to have the sense of a pulpy type of series, but not that serious type of a film. Like, Wild Wild West didn't work because it went too campy for its own good. This one doesn't work because it takes itself too seriously for its own good. You have to have a combination of both ways to make something like this work, and sadly, it's just not here in this movie. And really, I don't think it's Jon Favreau's fault. The guy is trying his best here, and he isn't doing a bad job directing the film. I mean, the guy shows that he has a range with different genres, not just with comedies, but also with blockbusters like this. I mean, he is putting the best effort he can into this, but like I said, the film is just way too serious for its own good. And it's just kind of like, tone it down a little bit, guys. It's Cowboys and Aliens, for God's sakes. Like, this should not be that hard of a concept to make interesting. And it just didn't work in the end. It was a movie that had a lot of hype built up to it, a lot of potential built to it, but like I said, they took it way too seriously, and the film just kind of catapulted itself pretty quickly to a point where it just became unbearable almost immediately. And it's just like, I really felt disappointed watching this, because I was really expecting a whole lot more from this with the casting that they had in here, the director, Jon Favreau, good people working on this film, just a lot of good ideas, but unfortunately, the tone and the screenplay is so bland, and the tone is just way too serious for its own good. Like, they've tried so hard to make modern Western blockbusters like this. I mean, as I mentioned, Wild Wild West, and we're still a couple of years away from Disney's The Lone Ranger, which tried to do the same thing. And just last year we had Jonah Hex, which also didn't work. So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe just the idea of trying to mix sci-fi and cowboy and westerns, maybe that wasn't enough in general to save the film in general. But again, it would help if the tone wasn't as serious as it was before. Like, I don't know why anyone would want to do this, but if you wanted to try this again and do something like, remember that show Wild West Cowboys of Moo Mesa? That show that had kind of that banger theme song. It was basically Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, except it was the Western. Like, if you did something like that in a live-action setting, maybe that could work if you had it in the right minds. But again, you gotta be able to play with it while also kind of being a mix of being comedy and a little bit of dramatic elements to it. Like, do something like they did with the Michael Bay produced Ninja Turtles movies, which I actually did. I actually like those a lot more than people give them credit for. Like, do something like that, and you can have something fun with that in general. But this is a film like this should have been much more silly, over the top fun. Like, this should have been something that should have been on the same levels as something like maybe Ninja Turtles in a way, where it takes itself it's both funny, but it can also take itself seriously. The combination has to be correctly there. They have to match together. But in this case, it just didn't work here. And it's just a lot of good effort from the people. A lot of good effort in terms of the people that they brought in to make this. But sadly, the end result was just not a good film overall. It's a disappointment too. A major disappointment with everybody involved in here. You expect so much more from it, and it just wasn't there. So, yeah, a hard skip, sadly, on Cowboys and Aliens. So with all that said, let's go ahead and move on to our next movie. And this one was easily the biggest hit of the newest releases. Even though Cowboys and Aliens opened higher, the Smurfs had, of course, the biggest tracking, the longer tracking, and ended up becoming the biggest hit that it was. And let's just take a look at the trailer and you can kind of see why.
We're being attacked! Do not be fooled by their cuteness!
They're friendly.
That's right, you pasted giant.
Yeah, apparently that's the way to sell these kids' movies back then, Just have nothing but the actors screaming at the top of their lungs, because screaming is considered funny, apparently. And, yeah, you remember the year was when Roger Gonzalez first did Scooby-Doo, and they had that great teaser trailer that really kind of took everyone by surprise, because everyone thought there was a new Batman movie, and then when they actually showed who it actually was...
Throughout the ages, there has been one hero protecting mankind wherever he is needed. He moves in shadows, cloaked in mystery. And now, he will be called upon yet again to save the world. Scooby-Doo, rated PG, in theaters June 14th.
Yeah, that was actually a pretty good way to sell the film. The film was not great, but it was at least a good way to sell the film. They tried to do the same thing again, this time not only ripping off a Batman movie, but let's rip off the marketing campaign for 101 Dalmatians, the 1990s version. And this was their end result of that.
Prepare yourself for something big. Something magical. Because next summer, our world is about to get Smurfs in 3D.
Once again, screaming is considered funny. No, it's not. But anyway, this is The Smurfs, the live-action animated feature film adaptation of the popular characters from the 1980s, created by Peyo. Were more well-known back then for the 80s TV show produced by Hanna-Barbera, and had been away for a long time since then. There have been many attempts to try to make a movie version of The Smurfs ever since the original show ended, and then nearly 25 years after the show ended, this was the end result of that. So when the evil Gargamel, played by Hank Azaria, chases the tiny blue Smurfs out of their village, they tumble from their magical world and into ours. So yeah, it's the enchanted formula, literally the enchanted formula, because guess where they end up? In New York City, in the middle of Central Park, just 3 apples high and stuck in the Big Apple, the Smurfs must find a way to get back to their village before Gargamel tracks them down. And they come across is this couple played by Neil Patrick Harris and Jayma Mays. You have Tim Gunn in here because he was a thing with Project Runway. Sofia Vergara is also in here playing Patrick's boss in here. Stacked voice cast, because apparently that's the only way to sell the Smurfs is by having a stacked voice cast, because you've got Jonathan Winters as Papa Smurf, Katy Perry as Smurfette, Anton Yelchin as Clumsy Smurf, Fred Armisen, Alan Cumming, George Lopez, Jeff Foxworthy, Paul Rubens, John Oliver, Kenan Thompson, BJ Novak, Wolfgang Puck. But at least they have a couple of veteran voice actors in John Kassir, Tom Kane, and Frank Welker. So I guess I got to give them credit for at least hiring those people there. But I mean, this is about what you expect for a movie like this. This is that type of film where you watch it and you think to yourself, yeah, ripping off Enchanted, ripping off the fish out of water concept, basically ripping off Coming to America. Coming to America is pretty much the same premise. Let's take a character from his normal world and bring him to New York City. Except he's not a cartoon character; he's a prince of a country, and it's literally the same premise here. And yeah, it's not a great movie overall. However, having seen what just happened recently with the Smurfs in their fourth attempt to get it right, with another CG animated movie, and they failed again, they somehow made this movie slightly better than I would have said back in the day. Because yes, this is not a good movie, but at least to its credit, it's at least trying. It's at least trying to do something with it, even though it's something we've seen done to that before. Yeah, I'm not going to say this is a great movie per se. I'm just going to say that it's not as bad as I remember it was back in the day. Because when I saw it back in the day, it was about what I expected it to be. Just kind of a lame animated CG hybrid, an Enchanted knockoff. And it is pretty much that. But to its credit, unlike the other Smurf films we've gotten later on down the road, especially with the animated ones, you can at least tell that this one, some effort was being put in there. I mean, you could tell there was at least an effort of ambition put into it. Like, Hank Azaria, I think, is the best thing about the movie playing Gargamel. That's the one thing I think that is rock solid in this and in Smurfs too, because like he knocks it out of the park as Gargamel. Like, he's great in this. Like, he's the one guy that gets it. I mean, it's essentially pretty much the equivalent to David Cross in the Alvin and the Chipmunks movies, or Andrew Daly and Yogi Bear. Like, he's that one guy who knows the assignment and knows what type of movie he is in, but he's at least going to put his effort into it, and he does put his effort into it overall. I mean, everyone else is just fine, I guess. Neil Patrick Harris, and like I said, I've said this time and time again, it's hard to make Neil Patrick Harris unlikable and somebody who gets so on your nerves. And in here, he's fine. He's not the same Neil Patrick Harris that we come to see in. He's not Barney Stinson. He's not the guy from Harold and Kumar. But in the performance in the role he's given here, he's at least trying. He's at least trying to bring something to this. Just like, hey, my name's attached to this. I'm going to go ahead and do something here. The voice acting is fine. I mean, the only ones that I really thought were kind of the strong ones were Jonathan Winters as Papa Smurf, and also Anton Yelchin, who plays Clumsy Smurf. There is kind of this subplot about him where, Papa Smurf thinks that, because he sees a vision of the future where Clumsy fucks everything up, the visions are never wrong, and then by the end it's just like, oh, the visions can be wrong sometimes. Just like, it's a stupid concept overall, but at least there was some effort being put in there in that levels. But like I said, I'm not going to say that this is a great movie by any means necessary, but considering the Smurfs 2 and the 2 CG animated movies, which the thing that bugs me most about when they do the Smurfs is that they try so hard to knock off the Minions with the first couple of Smurfs movies, and then when Trolls was the big thing, now it's all of a sudden, oh, we got to make them like the Trolls characters. Just like, how about you just make them like the Smurfs? Why is it so hard to make a Smurfs movie without making these characters seem like the most obnoxious characters ever? Like, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And especially with this last movie, I have no idea. Like, I have no idea what the hell they were thinking when they made this new film. Because as I said on my review for this, which I'm going to go check that out, I have it up there in the corner. But the whole idea of the Smurfs is that, you're not supposed to make these Smurf characters seem like just obnoxious, annoying characters. Like, everybody in that movie, the last movie, was kind of obnoxious and just did not fit. Rihanna playing Smurfette, that was just bad casting overall. And you're gonna have to put her at the focal point of the problems with that movie, because she was the main producer on that movie. She was in control of the soundtrack for that movie. She's part of the biggest problem with that movie. And yeah, she's got a distinctive voice to her because she's from the Bahamas, and like, that voice coming out of a Smurf like Smurfette just does not fit whatsoever. I don't know what the big deal. I don't know why they have to decide, like, of all the people that we got to cast in this movie, Smurfette has to be played by whoever the most popular singer is at the time, because this was Katy Perry, and then the Smurfs of the Lost Village, it's Demi Lovato, and of course the most recent film, it was Rihanna. It's just like, I mean, Katy Perry's fine in here, I guess, but other than that, though, yeah, this is about what you think it is. If there's one good thing that came from this thing, in general, it was the Smurfs Christmas Carol special that actually came out later that year, because it was actually made by people who made the 80s show. It was in 2D animation for the most part. Yeah, it had the 3D bookends, but it felt like I was watching the old Hanna-Barbera show again. Like, the animation was actually really good, the humor was actually really good, the voice work they got in there was pretty good. I mean, that's the best thing this movie ever did, was at least give us the Smurfs Christmas Carol special, which I highly recommend checking out. Again, I did a video of it just recently, so, again, check that out in the corner right there. But other than that, though, this is still not a great movie, but it's at least the most tolerable of the Smurfs films, and trust me, that's saying a lot. This is like the equivalent to the Alvin and the Chipmunks movies, where all four of those live-action films are so terrible, but the first one is still the best one of them. It's still the best of the four, except not as good as nowhere near as good as the real great Alvin and the Chipmunks movie, which was the Chipmunk Adventure. And in terms of the Smurfs and the Magic Flute, the animated movie they did back in the 80s, I don't think that one was that terrible, but at the same time, that was made, the way they did the dubbing for that, because they couldn't get the original Hanna-Barbera voice actors to do it, because it was separate companies who made that movie, because that movie originally came out in the 70s in Belgium. Yeah, because they don't have those same voices, it sadly just kind of takes away the enjoyment factor of that film. But if I have to pick the best animated version of that, it's probably the closest one, because of just the fact that, you know, it's the one that at least looks like the Smurfs in general. But at least this one, like I said, I'll give a credit for trying to do something unique and different with, not even trying to do something unique and different with it, but at least attempting to try to come out with something enjoyable compared to the other Smurf films. I didn't even want to say unique or interesting in general, because there's nothing of that in here. But like I said, the only things that actually did kind of make it work were Hank Azaria as Gargamel, and sometimes the voice acting was okay. Neil Patrick Harris gets a couple of good moments here and there, but other than that, though, it is what you expect from a Roger Gosnell directed adaptation. So take that for what you will. I'm already, what am I up to? Like 9 minutes now telling you that, yeah, this isn't a great movie, but I will gladly take it over any of the more recent Smurf movies we've gotten. So, but then again, that's not really saying a whole lot. So, we've had a couple of stinkers to start the week off here, so let's get to some really good stuff. And boy, this next one definitely is one of the highlights of the year, and that is Crazy Stupid Love.
You gotta take control of your manhood, pal.
Would you put on some clothes, please?
Critics are going crazy for Crazy Stupid Love. Rolling Stone raves it's a comic knockout, sharply funny and touching. Easily one of the best films of the year.
I'm very nervous.
You're adorable.
It's flat out brilliant and funny as hell. What a great comedy should be. Do yourself a favor and see it.
So can I buy you a drink, Kate?
I'm 5 years sober. What can I get for you?
Nothing. Please don't come back ever.
Crazy Stupid Love. Rated PG-13. Starts Friday.
This is a movie that I just fell in love with right from the get-go, and sadly it's a movie that has kind of been pushed off to the side as of late the last couple of years, and it's a shocker, because this one actually was a big hit when it came out. It was well received by critics when it came out, but yeah, you barely ever hear people talk about this film in general. But in this film, you have a sad sack divorcee played by Steve Carell, who finds his second wind of life after meeting a handsome young ladies man who teaches him how to become a master of the modern dating scene. A devoted family man who marries his high school sweetheart, Cal had a great house and a stable job with his wife, played by Julianne Moore, left him to be with another man. When Emily announces that she's filing for divorce, Cal finds himself awkwardly thrust into the dating scene and begins drinking his night away at the local pub. Just when it seems like there's no hope for Cal, confirmed bachelor Jacob Palmer, played by Ryan Gosling, decides to add some much-needed excitement to the sulking new single father's life. Before long, Cal's rough edges have been all smoothed out. He's mastered the fine art of flirting and develops a distinctive sense of style that sets him apart from the pack. But just as Cal starts to turn heads, his adolescent son Robbie develops a big crush on his teenage babysitter, played by Annalee Tipton. Unfortunately for Robbie, Jessica only has eyes for Cal. Meanwhile, Cal can't help but feel like something substantial is missing from his life, and he decides that the only way to set things straight is by listening to his heart. This really was one of the more enjoyable movies, not just of that summer, but of the year in general, because, as I said before, first half of the year was really rough, and I'm sort of realized we are starting to get to the really good stuff that came out in the second half of the year. So the second half of the year, not as bad as the first half of the year, but, I mean, what I liked about this movie a lot is that it did a really good job of showing the relationships of the main characters and how they all changed throughout the course of the film up to the film's climax. Steve Carell does a very good job in here, having a lot of really good funny moments. There's a great moment early on where he and his wife are having an argument, and he just decides, they're in a car, and he just decides while she's talking, it's just like, fucking, I'm just going to open the door and just throw myself out of the car, and he's rolling out of the car. Like, stuff like that. That's real fun stuff. Ryan Gosling, it's a great year for Ryan Gosling in general, because, you know, we got this coming up, and then Drive's coming up in a couple of months from now, and then The Ides of March. So so Ryan Gosling was coming into his owner at this time of the year. He was great in this movie. He works very well with Emma Stone, who plays the girl that he falls in love with here, many years before they eventually reunite for La La Land, and they were also in Gangster Squad too, if I'm not mistaken. Yes? Yes, they were together in Gangster Squad, and then they were more known for La La Land, which Emma Stone won the Oscar for. And it's a shame Ryan Gosling's never won an Oscar, man, because that guy has been so damn good ever since this movie came out. It's just like, give him an Oscar, man. I don't care what it's for, man. Just give him an Oscar, for God's sakes. He's been in so many good movies, and this is one where he really knocks it out of the park. Nobody really talks about Annalee Tipton in here, who's doing a pretty good job in here. She was a former America's Next Top Model contestant. You know, she comes on here, and in her first main acting debut, she kind of knocks it out of the park in here. Certainly a lot better than Rosie Huntington-Whiteley did in Transformers Dark of the Moon early in the year. Julianne Moore's really good. Kevin Bacon is pretty good in here. So is Marissa Tomei. Yeah, they're all really good in here. A lot of the comedy is really well done, and I like the nice twist at the beginning of the third act, which brings all the main characters together, and I thought they did a pretty good job of cleverly putting that together, and just not just having all these couples just be random strangers out of nowhere. There is a connection between everybody, and I thought they did play it pretty well here. There are some things I didn't like about the film. This is one of those movies that uses those cliches I can't stand in movies. Two of the big ones, the dream sequence and the big misunderstanding. And it's just kind of like, why do we have to throw these in here? Like just don't do that, man. Just come on. Like, it's just, I'm getting so sick and tired of these cliches. It gets so ridiculous every time. And here's another one of these movies that almost gets ruined by it, but luckily, it doesn't ruin the ebb and flow of the film. It's just kind of an annoyance, honestly. There is another thing I really didn't like. The Robbie subplot, you know, trying to get the attention of Jessica. It's the second movie I saw this summer where a kid goes into stalker territory to get the attention of the girl that I hated. The first one was Bad Teacher. And I guess, really the reason why I don't like it here is because this was back in high school. I mean, I never resulted to the level that Robbie does in this movie, and I really don't. I mean, I was like this back in high school, and I never was to this extreme when it came to finding a girlfriend and all that, but I don't need this shit thrown back in my face again, man. I've grown since then, the 14 years since this movie came out, and Bad Teacher, too. It's just like, I don't want those bad memories back in there again, but that's just me personal. That's just a personal thing with me, but overall, Crazy Stupid Love is an overall really good movie. It's a lot of good performances, a lot of really good comedy moments in here, a lot of really good elements to it. The relationships are very good, a good pace overall. All the chemistries are nicely done. And I'm glad to see Steve Carell doing more than just the straightforward comedies again. And he would start doing more dramas from this point going forward, because later on he would do Foxcatcher, which, you know, was the first time he ever got nominated for an Academy Award, which is a terrific film that we'll eventually get into here. But I like his work in Little Miss Sunshine and Dan in Real Life, and I like to see him branching out, not just being the funny guy in these comedies and all that, but proving that, hey, he's got the dramatic chops to make it work. And lo and behold, he's got a chance to make it work here, and he pays it off big time. So I really enjoyed the hell out of this movie. Crazy Stupid Love, easily one of my favorite movies of the year. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our last movie that we have here, which was the big cult hit of the year, and that is Attack the Block.
Check it. Lovely fireworks. Tsunamis. Alien invasion.
Of course it is.
Let's get tuned up, blood!
Quite sweet, really, aren't they?
Thinking probably aliens.
Need to get off the streets, stuck in a block.
Got no credit.
Got one text left. Too much madness to explain in one text.
We have to call the police.
You'd be better off calling the Ghostbusters, love.
Attack the Block in cinemas May 11.
So in Attack the Block, it follows an unlucky young woman and a group of tough inner-city kids who make an unlikely alliance to try to defend their turf against an invasion of savage alien creatures, turning a South London apartment complex into an intergalactic war zone. So imagine kind of a mix between Shaun of the Dead meets, I guess you could throw in a little bit of World's End there, because the World's End kind of took a little bit from this movie in particular. Coincidentally, one of the stars of the movie is Nick Frost, of course, part of that Cornetto trilogy, and Joe Cornish was one of the directors on this. And I think this was actually, was this his directorial debut, or was this yeah, this is the first movie he ever directed, but he would do, I'm looking at stuff overall. He has done a lot of great stuff overall. Later in the year, he's going to be one of the writers on The Adventures of Tintin. He wrote Ant-Man, and he also directed The Kid Who Would Be King, a criminally underrated film that sadly came and went when it did. But we'll save that for 2019. But this movie, this is a film that I really enjoyed the hell out of. I think a lot of people really were surprised on how good this really was, because this is a very interesting film and a very intriguing film in terms of like the concept of taking Shaun of the Dead and making it about aliens in general, and having these people come together to defend their block from these aliens on Guy Fawkes night of all nights. And like I said before, you get to see early instances of young actors who are going to become known more for their science, is more in different sci-fi franchises. John Boyega, of course, a couple years before he eventually broke out in Star Wars: The Force Awakens, and Jodie Whittaker many years before she went on to become one of the Doctor Who's. But yeah, this is a really good film, and a very cheap film, too. I mean, for the visuals that they have in this movie, they do a pretty good job of creating this world that actually doesn't feel like it's fake, despite the low budget they had on this. And yeah, it's a funny movie. The action sequences are really cool. The visuals are very impressive overall. You do get attached to these characters fairly early on. It kind of has the same feeling of something like a Super 8 also in there, too. And yeah, it's a really amazing film. It's an intriguing film that keeps you on the edge of your seat. It can be very funny. It can be very intense. The action's pretty good. It's a very good film overall that sadly didn't get the attention that it deserved at the start, but it's gone on to have this cult following over the years, and it's led to a lot of these big stars in general that came out of the woodwork out of it. So yeah, this is a film that I would definitely recommend checking out if you have not seen it already. Definitely check it out. Attack the Block. You will not be disappointed by it. And thus, with all that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. And when I said the second half of the year was getting a lot better, the next couple, at least one of the next two movies we'll look at on tomorrow's show is definitely an example of that. Rise of the Planet of the Apes with James Franco and Frida Pinto in a reboot of the Planet of the Apes franchise, a film that nobody really was expecting a whole lot from, but when it came out, it really shocked everybody at how good it was, and eventually led to one of the great trilogies we had. Not even one of the great trilogies, one of the great film series that we've had going on right now with the reboot Planet of the Apes series, and a star in particular in Caesar, which we'll delve more into that coming up tomorrow when we talk more about Rise of the Planet of the Apes. But we also have Ryan Reynolds and Jason Bateman teaming up for the first time in a body switch raunchy comedy with a change-up, which also features Olivia Wilde and also Leslie Mann among its cast. So we'll see if that turns out to be any good. Spoiler alert, it won't. But we'll tell more into that coming up tomorrow on the show. So definitely be on the lookout for that. But with all that said, thank you so much for watching this, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, I would like you to please go ahead and do me the honor. Why am I even stretching this out? I don't know, but please go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification button. Also, don't forget to check out our playlist, and also check out the last episode we did. So with all that said, whether it's in the past, the present, or the future, I will see you at the movies. Take care.